Oh, welcome to part 40, 40k diorama making of. So I thought I'd just finish it up and do a paint over, and I'll show an overview of the paint over process. If anyone's been following me tutorials, then they'll know that I have an in-depth step-by-step tutorial series on the plasma bolter, from Zbrush to keyshot passes to Photoshop paint over. And basically I'm using the exact same methods here. I'm not going to go into them in detail here, but I'm using the same methods, same workflow. And if anyone's been following this particular series, you'll notice how I've added some. This is the final piece before export to keyshot, but I've added a couple of more bits here and bobs because I felt that over this side was a bit bare. So I have added in just these coils of barbed wire. Excuse me. These coils of barbed wire here. And all I did to create them there in that shape was I created a Helix 3D primitive, sized it up, and then did a polygroup polyloop, selected a polyloop around, and then just used the curve function, polygroup curve function, and that gave me this shape for the barbed wire. And then these dragon's teeth, you create these dragon's teeth base mesh in 3D Max, simple base mesh, Pro Boolean in 3D Max. Didn't even need to do that because I could have just dynameshed it, but I eventually did dynamesh it, but by Pro Boolean and Max then an extra little bit of modeling, all simple stuff with sharp corners, which I then used crease ZModeler, subdivided it to give me these nice smooth corners, as I've shown in other videos, and then just dynameshed and sculpted, and just added a couple of them in, and a bit of barbed wire, and I re-simulated the Phoenix FD liquid simulation with more resolution. Just let it run for a couple more hours. I wasn't entirely happy with the other one, and in the end I just comped out a pass of each. So some of these things I was nearly completely finished the paint over when I decided to add, that I wasn't happy with certain things and I wanted to change them or add to them. And because of the non-destructive nature of this kind of workflow, it's easy to do that. I also added in this chaos standard, and that was, I was almost it was 95% finished when I decided to add this in, even after I'd added in the dragon's teeth and the barbed wire. I just thought it was missing something, and this had helped to add compositionally to the illustration, which I'll kind of point out later on when we're having a look at it. So this was all done in ZBrush quite quickly as well. Didn't take me long, except for this part. This was done in Max, but I'll explain that in a minute. So as usual here, very quick base meshes with ZModeler for the likes of this, and the standard and these hooks, the pole, quick base mesh, creasing, subdivided, and then dynameshed, and then just added in some details here like the welds, and then obviously sculpted using similar techniques that was shown earlier on, just adopted slightly for metal, but more or less identical. This here was just, as I've shown in other videos as well, created with an alpha stroke mask on the subdivided plane, and the polygroup from the mask was isolated, and then panel loops to create that quite quickly, and then just added a skull here and a few insert rivets, and same here. This was quite quickly simply created, and dynamesh for sculpting, because we're doing an illustration here, so I don't have to worry about the topology. But ZModeler, I got this shape in here really quickly, and didn't bother doing any sculpting on the back because it'd never be seen. And this here, the flag, what I did there was I just exported the flagpole to Max, and because we had our scale all set up from the very start of the project, we didn't have to worry about that. So simple plane was created. Max a garment maker modifier was added to give me a Delani mesh for the cloth sim, and then I just selected and deleted all these faces around here and in here just to give that ragged kind of torn fabric look. Then I ran a cloth simulation, chose the frame from the simulation that I wanted, and just exported that frame out as a mesh into ZBrush, Z-remeshed it, did an extra little bit of sculpting on it here and there, and then because the Delani mesh is a triangulated mesh, and then because this is supposed to be made out of it's meant to be human skin stitched together, I just added in this kind of bit of stitch work here. It's nothing too fancy because it's not really going to be seen in the final illustration. It's just to give an indication of what it might be. Disgustingly enough, so that was that then. And as I say, I was nearly finished the illustration altogether when I decided to add this in, so I ended up just rendering all this as separate passes from a locked off. The camera had been locked in Keyshot, which is very important for rendering out passes, and I just unlocked it and dollied in the camera at the exact same angle and perspective, and then just rendered this out larger, just to get more resolution on the render, and then added that in at the end, and that was pretty much it. So when that was all, when this was all in place here, what I did was kind of systematically went through all the environment pieces, and decimated them all, and then I went over to the tool for the tank and went through each piece separately, got them at the desired subdivided resolution I wanted, deleted all hires, decimated them, and merged them all down into a single subtool, copy and pasted into the environment, paused it, and then broke it up again back into subtools, split it based on the polygroups and surface continuity, so that I could apply separate materials in Keyshot for the different passes. And once all that process was done, then everything went across to Keyshot, where I start rendering my passes. And that's pretty much it for ZBrush. I'm going to skip the Keyshot explanation altogether because I've went through that in depth in the Boulder series. So I'll jump into Photoshop, and here is the final illustration. So I'll just show the passes which are here. So here's the standard first of all. That, as I say, was done in separate passes. So an AO, just a metal kind of a pass, rust pass, and then I did if I'm not mistaken, I did a pass with the flag, with a transparent, subsurface scattering material, translucent material in Keyshot to give it that kind of skin kind of look ish. So dirty and ragged over at the end, and small in resolution. Can't really be noticed that much, but just adds that extra little subtle sort of detail that you don't directly see, but if it wasn't there you might miss. So that was it for those passes, and because this was all non-destructive and kind of non-linear and flexible, you can jump back and forth. If you're missing something or you're not happy with a pass, you can just be working in Photoshop as the pass is rendered in Keyshot, and it's all very efficient and simple and flexible, as I say. So Vineo pass here. These are some of the passes that I added in extra. This is the barbed wire standard I've shown already. And then there was the likes of this here, where that was the pillars with just a reflection pass that I was going to just add over the top to give a sort of a wet look to the pillars, but I didn't like it in the end, so I didn't bother using it. But it was quick to just do a trial and error, see if I liked it. It didn't, no big deal, didn't take much time, but it was worth trying. Rust pass, and then our main sort of is the metal scratch pass, the metal that will be revealed when we chip away the paint. Dirt pass, frame pass, which was just the frame around the base, which I changed a couple of times. I wasn't happy with. Pavers in their own separate pass. After the fact, I changed the pavers around because a lot of the broken ones were over here and it was a bit bland here. They were covered by the tank, so it was a bit bland, so I just redid that pass again halfway through because I wasn't happy with them, and brought some of the broken ones over here so they could be seen in the render. An extra pass here for the wall at the back, which I wasn't happy with either from the initial passes, and I just changed the material to a concrete kind of a material. And our all important clown pass, vital pass, and that's pretty much it. An extra pass here because I ended up having two different passes from the two different resolution Phoenix FD meshes, which you know, this stuff, you know, we have our masks here from the clown pass, and you know, we're going to be use a lot of masks, so that's so flexible. You can, as I say, you can add in things, take them out, and I end up combining these two passes and taking bits from each that I liked and just painting them out with masks. So that's all the passes. And as I say, here's the final image, and even you know, the standard is just its own layer with a bit of masking around here just to make it sit in behind this. And here's the standard. I comped all this separately in its own Photoshop file, and yeah, just copy and pasted that across. So you can see, even, let me see, where's the standard? Here's the standard. So a lot of these you know, a lot of these details that were added in here end up getting lost due to the texture and the fact that the resolution isn't huge, so we're not zoomed right in, and it's, as I say, it's overpowered by a lot of the texture. But so that's the different passes there, using the same methods with masking and things like that. The severed head was that was just a 15-minute job, and we just grabbed the super average man out of the light box, delete all the bits I didn't like, capped off the holes, and dynameshed it's just a blob kind of, and then I just dynameshed and sculpted out the face. Nothing special. Won't be winning any Bernini awards, but it does the job for the final kind of this is the final resolution it's seen at. So and as I did mention earlier on, this kind of added to the composition because it sort of opposes the tank here as it comes in and fills up this blank space, and also the head and the standard are kind of pointing at the tank. So it's compositionally, it's these lines, everything's coming back to the tank. If this line down here creating a sort of and the flag looking towards, and the head looking towards the tank, so it's just small kind of compositional things that just help to make it a bit more appealing to look at. Where was I on the head? Yeah, so the head, as I say, that was just simple sculpt and a quick poly paint, and one of a translucent material here on from Keyshaw, and that was basically it. As I say, there was nothing special about this at all. The wall, that's the wall from the last part that I modelled, and you can see here even the detail that was all sculpted in. Here it is with the texture on. A lot of it you can't see, and then the final, then obviously a lot of it's covered up by the tank itself. But it's still, it's no harm to, you can still render out kind of images like this and use them on your on your blog, or if you're doing a making of, or whatever you want to do. It's I like to have images and whip images like this of all projects. I usually save whips all the time, and it's just I like to have them. You kind of see your progress and whatnot. And that is pretty much it for all these other bits and bobs I wanted to show. The the wall standard. Oh, the dragon's teeth. Yeah, that's explained earlier on. That was very simple to make there. And same thing again. It's not, you know, it's not very visible. You can't really see the details that I've spent time doing in here, but nonetheless, I like it. It kind of definitely adds to the image. So we'll start now, just going through the layers. So I'll just turn this off, and this is our base layer. And what did I turn off there? The background. Yeah, so these are passed and rendered as TIFFs. So this would have been one of the base renders, and you can see I have here down the bottom these different tank paint layers. So these were just variations of the base layer. I'm just going to turn that off and turn this off, and I'll just disable that mask. So I'll turn these off. Sorry, it's always a bit weird kind of going back over all your layers, because the more you add on, the messier you get and the less you tend to name things and whatnot. So it's always a bit strange reverse engineering this kind of thing. So there's a base layer. You can see there of you know, with the materials in place that we're going to need. So we've our concrete, our sludgy, sewagey shy, the base frame, the white sort of basic white for the skulls here, our blue paint, and the kind of a gun barrel kind of a metal, and just a yellow plastic or whatever it was, just for the lights. And then I'll paint over them with masks and a bit of painting, and then you can see all the rivets here all have metal on them, and also the tracks. So then these were just variations of the paint. That's all these were, copy and pasted I think, and using Photoshop's tools to create variations and a bit of colour correction and whatnot, and just paint sort of dirt, and not even dirt, this is more about dirt and all will be added later. This is more about just varying the colour, so it's not just, you know, a solid blue. So it's subtle, but it's definitely noticeable. And then that one there, you can see it, I've kind of added in really light scratch. I'll just go in a bit more so you can see it. You can see there I've added in, you know, these scratches, and that would have been just manipulated. I would have manipulated a photo image, and they're not that noticeable. So even though like they're running here, that's something to watch out about when you use photo images, that you don't have, you know, the detail from the photo, it makes sense, so it doesn't look out of place then, you know. And that was just another layer then, with more variation, and you know, you can see it just breaks up that solid blue colour, and that was mostly what that was about, tank paint. And I'll just go up through these now. That was just the background. This was it was just a photograph of a Born city that I was going to add in at the background at the end, but I didn't really like it. Didn't suit the lighting or anything. I did a bit of painting over with some orange glow and whatnot, but I didn't like it in the end, so I just left it with a plain background, considering it is sort of a diorama. Then there's our metal scratch, and also you can see I took advantage of this pass rather than just putting metal on everything. I changed these around, this concrete and the pavers and that, so they have a different, I've something else to pick from them when I'm masking. And even this liquid, I've just changed that. So it's always a good idea just to make use of your passes and you know, add in extra materials and shaders just so you have them there, you have the option there. And because we're using the clown pass, you know, it's so easy to just isolate different bits and use that to your advantage. So dark earth, I don't know what that is. The rust. Yeah, so there's the before we do that, actually I will let me see, enable my mask. no, yeah, sorry, that's behind everything. Then I ended up just once I was happy with the paint variations, I just brought them up top here. Um, so yeah, there is. That's with the paint scratched away. So I'll just enable this layer mask, and that's the mask for the rust. So what you can see here, this is an important thing to kind of to grasp, is using the masks here in Photoshop. So for instance, if I disable this layer mask, here's the metal scratch, and the tank paint mask is on the group itself, and that's masking out everything to reveal the metal scratch. But within that group, I'm chipping away the paint to reveal the rust. So it's important that you use group masking if you want to have cumulative kind of masking that'll go through layers. So for instance, this separates the metal scratch and the rust scratch. So yeah, that's an important concept to grasp. So I'll just zoom in here. So I just went around and I enjoyed doing this, and just chipped away the paint, revealing that metal scratch layer, and I used one of the Photoshop brushes that's decent enough for this. Is I think it's called Chalk 11 Pixels. But I use these, see this Blur's Good Brush, I've been using these for years. I found them on CG Talk on a feature. It was I think it's a Chinese lad, digital 2D digital painter, and it's a big set of brushes that he created himself for his own 2D digital painting work, but a lot of them are very handy for what we're doing here. So a lot of them are, as I say, kind of mimicking watercolor brushes and oil painting brushes and everything for traditional painting, but there's loads of them in here that are really handy for this sort of 3D kind of painting as well. They're just all extra grungy ones, and these are some that I made myself, just using photographs of rust and leaks and things like that, and just isolated them and created brushes out of them from black and white kind of crunched images. So yeah, these ones here, like noise, corrosion, dirt stains, rust, scratch, wear, and this corrosion one I think I used. It's a nice brush to use with the Wacom pressure sensitivity for the scratches here. Kind of gives it I don't know, it just feels nice. Feels believable for the scratches. So I just went around the whole tank and just selectively chose areas to scratch away. I didn't go crazy and do every single edge, but it's subjective really. But I did I enjoyed doing that. Got lost in it, and then I'll just enable the rust layer mask, and there's just the rust, same again. We're using that rust pass from Keyshot, and same again. I can't remember what brush I used for that, but I just tried out a few different ones, and also I went around nearly every single screw, a rivet, and just made sure that there was a little bit of kind of rust, beneath each screw. I think eventually they'll be bullet holes, I think. So yeah, like logical places as well. This is a door here, so it's going to be open and on the ground, and it's probably going to get a lot more wear and tear than maybe some of the other areas, like up here. So it's just kind of a logical way as well of thinking of where extra dirt or rust or whatever scratches are going to appear. So that was the rust, and yeah, that was the tank paint, and that was just extra passes, metal variations on the exhaust, which it doesn't look like I used. What else have we got here? That was just that number 4 there. What the hell is that? Sorry, I don't. No, it was just a weird error. Yeah, so there was like that number 4 there. I just used the text tool and skewed it. It's not perfect, but I was chipping it away anyway, and it's, you know, some mechanic bloke just painted it anyway, so it doesn't have to be perfect. I could have did this as a decal pass from Keyshop, but if I had them all over the place, I probably would have. But just with one here, I didn't bother. I just did it here in Photoshop. Text tool. That is that, and then our dirt layer. Same again. That was our dirt pass, and if I go in a bit closer, you can see I rendered it out with quite a prominent bump map on it, so that, you know, it'll look kind of, you can see here the bump actually certainly shows up in the render, and definitely adds to the illusion that it's kind of caked on muck, lumps of muck. And same again, I added just more here because that door would be closing into the muck, and then obviously where it splashes up in the front and it's all over the tracks, and a bit more kind of at the back here where it's might have splashed up around from the tracks, and not really any on the top or up here because it wouldn't have really reached up there. So that's the dirt. That was just a pillar color correction there that was just trying out, because I wasn't happy with that. And that changes then later on to a concrete. So let's go back out again. That was extra dust, extra dirt, extra dust. Yeah, so you can see here I've just added another layer there, duplicate that layer, and just have a different mask on it, where I am, you know, a bit gathered up around in here, in the corners, and maybe a bit more here, in and around this sort of vent. Then the tin dust layer. Tin dust layer was more, rather than caked on dirt, it was just recent kind of, you know, dust that you might get whatever driving over really dry terrain. So that's all in the same sort of places around the edges up along the front, and that was just all I did there. Was a really light brown, big soft brush, and just painted it on, and extra tin dust, just dropped the opacity down. There's another color correction layer for the pillar, and there's the AO, and then I think of an extra copy of AO that might have painted on or off, or just left out altogether. Then this glow layer, that was just these little lights. That was just a red brush on overlay mode or whatever, and just a couple of single clicks just to give that little glow. Skull scratches, that was just some extra detail and scratches on these because they were looking a bit plain. Then the grime layer was just a duplicate of the dirt layer, and color corrected in Photoshop to darken it all up, and then I just pretty much painted it on here in these recessed areas. So rather than just relying on the AO, you can have more control, and just, you know, around these vents where these are going to get grimy from whatever you know, dirty particles in the air passing through, and then, you know, around here, around the exhausts, where the same thing's going to happen. The fumes will stain this area in close proximity, and then areas like in here where grime is naturally going to gather, and around here, the base, that was just as the kind of paint over went on, I wasn't really happy with the base, so I ended up doing a couple of extra passes, and even another one here. Even I kept changing, and even up to the end I changed it. Paving detail, that's just adding a bit more detail there. Wasn't happy with these all the way through. Extra sewage, so there you can see where I've added the this is the original lower resolution simulation, and this was the higher resolution simulation, and here's the mask. So I liked the detail up here and a little bit here from the original one, and then the newer one I like the rest of the detail, so I just use the mask to paint in and out. And drips, just think there in the tank. Let me see, drips. Yeah, they were just some extra drips painted in, and then there's these bullet holes. Extra dirt then, that was just a bit more dirt here and there where I felt it was needed. The base again, messing around with the base. Zoom back out again. What was that? Yeah, that was just more dirt again in and around these hatches. And this is where I got lazy and stopped naming layers. And these were all just these were kind of where's that layer gone? Yeah, I just went around and did a pass of these kind of almost like runs. Color picked a dark kind of blue from off the tank, and then just painted in these runs using different brushes. So you can see I've put some here where the water might have gathered here and then just ran over the side, and here, places like that. That was just, these are the three bullet holes, kind of an extra bit of detail around them. I think I grabbed little bullet hole textures off Google and then just messed around with them. And that was a severe color correction there. I don't know what's happened there. Sorry, I've turned on the turned that on altogether. So yeah, this is these are all color correction layers using this Nick software collection plugin that I've been using for years, and there's some handy tools in here. The output sharpener and some of these color effects Pro 4 that I use, you know, for tonal changes, and basic, you know, color correction stuff and grading. There's the sharpener there, and that is pretty much it. These are the various different elements, these graffiti elements that I added in. Let me see, I'll turn on the final. So just here, you know, this was just Latin sort of text. You can't see in the final, but still I just added in anyway. This was like a Latin text because a lot of the Space Marine stuff is all in Latin, or sort of pig Latin or whatever. Corn symbol, I think that's a zinc or one of those other 40k symbols, another chaos symbol, and they're just all added in different blend modes and chipped away with paintbrushes. And what's that weird thing there? I'm not too sure what that weird thing is. Let's turn on the background. Yeah, it got a tiny bit messy towards the end with me comping, because I wanted to get it finished, and plus I was adding in these extra bits. Even originally, you can see this the head here. Originally I just had this spike in here with the head on it, when I didn't have this bloke in mind yet, and it looked a bit stupid, so that was when I kind of came up with the idea to add this in. And then I just I changed this. I wanted to keep that pike just as an extra little bit of detail beside that, so it wasn't too isolated, and I just painted that out with clone stamp. And that is pretty much it. I'm just now looking at that, and I think that might be a bit too extreme, that color correction layer. So, you know, if you did think that, a quick example, you know, I could just take the paintbrush and paint with black, and I could just paint that out then if I thought that was too extreme, which I do. So simple, you know, they're just a couple of clicks of the mouse to mask that out, and everything's on masks, so everything's non-destructive and always easy to change. And that is pretty much it. That's pretty much what I wanted to show. So even things like this, I'll zoom in here, you can see the rebar that we did in the last section. I think, like, for the 2 minutes it took to make it or whatever, you can see now, like, it's driving me mad. that actually does, you know, it looks like, for all intents and purposes, it looks like rebar. So it's little small details like that, sort of help to add to the image. Let me see. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. In a nutshell, there's the final. So yeah, that's what I wanted to show, and I would also like to take this opportunity to give a huge thanks to everyone that's subscribed and supported me tutorials, and left, you know, positive comments. And I never would have thought I'm over 1,000 subscribers now, which is pretty insane. I never would have thought I'd get anywhere near that. So thanks everybody for supporting me, and hopefully I keep creating more of these, because I'm actually enjoying creating them myself. So that is the end, and I'll sign off. Alright, hope you enjoyed this one and learned a bit, and you know, found it interesting enough to keep you awake this long. Alright, and bios, cheers, thanks, good luck.